because the community aspect is not just the teachers. Montessori is very much about, this is what we're doing in the classroom, but we need you to be consistent at home. So it's almost like the teachers are leading us as well.
Hi, I'm Danielle and I'm from Our Kids. I just interviewed Jennifer and Alessandro, two parents who sent their daughter, Isabel, to La Villa Montessori. Continue listening to learn about La Villa's curriculum style, leadership opportunities for their students, and how the principal went above and beyond to assist parents during their commute. Can you tell me a little bit more about Isabel? What is she like? What are her likes and dislikes?
Oh, jeez. She's very social, loves to be involved in activities at home with everybody. She likes to learn new things, and she likes to see things through all the way.
And what kind of learner is she?
I think she likes to be shown. So like demoing, so someone can explain a concept on video or in words, and then if they give an example, usually she learns well from examples and she can follow the example and get the idea of how to apply a concept. And then in Montessori, they actually do show it to you, and then she can mimic it and then figure out how to apply those concepts to something else. So I'd say example. It doesn't really matter if it's video or just verbal or reading. Any type of example helps her.
And can you explain the process that you took to choose La Villa Montessori? Were you considering other options for your daughter? And if so, why did you choose this school ultimately?
We were actually at another Montessori that was closer to home. And I think the new Nursery Daycare Act had a change in it. So because of that, all the schools that had children under 3 had to put everything on hold until they got all the new check marks and so forth. Montessoris tend to be beyond what's required, but they still need the inspection and all of that. So La Villa Montessori was kind of a Band-Aid solution to find somewhere to put her in the meantime, because La Villa Montessori was new and it was a commute for us. We live in Etobicoke, it's in Mississauga. So it was a commute back and forth, but we ended up loving that school so much, we didn't return to our old school. I just did the commute back and forth every day. That's how much she loved it. Like if I could pick up that school and drop it in Etobicoke, I would have done that.
That's good that it was a Band-Aid solution, but it ended up working out for you guys and you liked it so much.
Yeah, we were all the way till the end of CASA. Like if they had grades, grade 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4, 5, all of that, I would have stayed.
Can you explain what the application process was like?
The application process for that one, we didn't really go through the regular way just because we were somewhere else before. And they were a new school and needed more students into their class because they had just opened and got all of their paperwork done. So really it was many of us from this old school moving over. So not much paperwork for us.
And how did your daughter respond to learning at the school? Did she have a positive or negative experience overall?
Super positive.
Very positive.
They know her really well. You know, when you have classes that are large, our older daughter, they don't really know her well. At school, at Montessori, every staff knows her. She knows the staff, students of not just her own age group, but younger and older. So she enjoys that because she is very social. And to this day, she still will name students and teachers from that school when making her birthday invite list and so forth. So super positive experience. She would have stayed if she could.
And did her experience translate into the home atmosphere? And what I mean by that is, have you seen an ability in Isabel's personal growth and development that you can attribute as a result of attending that particular school?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. She's always, when she does different activities at home, she's always conscious of putting it back together after, putting things away, tidy, and she always liked at the Montessori as well, the whole baking aspect that they had, and she always wants to contribute at home to bake and so forth. And even with her moving to a non-Montessori school, she still has those tendencies of wanting to learn and try to teach others, like she learned at her school at Montessori beforehand.
Sounds like she was in a leadership role and she became quite the leader after attending that school as well.
It's really cool. I would say like definitely the biggest things were her desire to be of contribution at home. It starts in school, but it really, we saw it here where, like he said, she'll find an activity. It's not about, like, if the TV was on, she would watch the TV for maybe like 5-10 minutes and then she's done. She wants to go and help me cook, or she'll see some laundry. She'll want to go fold the laundry, or she takes an activity and she'll sit there, and also focus is the other one. She'll sit there and focus for, a lot of kids her age could barely sit for 10-20 minutes without having some adult supervision. She'll sit there and do something it's complete and get really focused and enjoy it. She likes getting better at things. And then the third thing I noticed is that comfort with not only her age group, but kids and adults, or older or younger than her. It's that sense of community she has, not seeing anyone above or below her, but treating them just all as human beings as we are. And she's very comfortable flipping back and forth between like a teacher role, if it's a younger cousin or friend, teaching and leading them, and still being a student. She has this love of learning and wants to be involved. I mean, if anything, we're restricted by our time, or adults tend to be in a rush, but she is, all the qualities they've fostered there, we see it at home, even now, even though we're not there anymore. We're at a public school.
Did you find that La Villa gave them opportunities to kind of embark on this leadership role?
Yeah, their model of mixing age groups. So it's 3 age groups in one class, and they stay together for 3 years. And so even though Isabel's the youngest sibling in our house, she's not always the youngest in her classroom. The first year she'll be the youngest, and by her 3rd year, she's the oldest. So she really gets to be in kind of a unit where she is the youngest, the middle, and then the eldest. So she, all that gave her opportunity to, again, teach lessons. And they'll even have her teach lessons that she's strong at, skills that she picked up easily. The teacher will be with one student and she'll be with maybe a younger student, sometimes even an older student, to teach them a lesson that she's learned in math, or building something, or cleaning, taking care of the environment. And so all of that is opportunity.
Was there a particular subject that she was really fond of while she attended the school?
Anything that stimulated, I think, hands-on and being creative. Yeah. So baking, they set them up so everything is measured out, and the kids will go from baking all the way to cleanup, setting the table for snacks and meals, and preparing the snacks and cleaning up. Anything with her hands, she enjoyed.
Even the sewing, yeah, metal insets and things like that, she really enjoyed it.
And she really loved the sensory activities. So Montessori doesn't just focus on academics, they go for all the senses. So there'd be this activity where each jar had different scents, like I don't know, lavender or lemon, and they would just smell these bottles and then try to pair up the 2 similar scents together. So I remember when she did that activity, like the day I picked her up, she was like, "Mom, it smells like strawberries in our car. Did you buy a strawberry?" So all her senses were stimulated, and it just developed another part of herself. So a really holistic approach to how they help raise these little human beings.
I've never heard of that before. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And I'm curious to know what their extracurricular opportunities were like based on what you're telling me with her subjects.
The nice thing, we didn't actually, I don't think they really had many, but the nice thing is she didn't really need it. She would come home, be done the day, and instead of doing more work, more activity, all of it was already incorporated in the day. So she would come home feeling really complete, and home time was now where she becomes part of what we're doing for the evening routine, and maybe just to relax. I found she got a lot of creativity out, exercise. Their yard is, kid friendly, made with a lot of natural materials to climb and run and pull and garden. They do their gardens, they plant flowers. So she would come home pretty complete. I didn't even need to find anything extra to keep her stimulated.
And typically every school will have a list of values, whether that's declared on their website or posted up in the school. But as parents, you've gotten a chance to witness what their values are like firsthand by having a daughter enrolled in the school. So what would you say the school's values are in actual practice?
I think respect for like students and, and the teachers. I think that was one.
And the environment.
They're
really conscious of that at the school.
Mm-hmm. I think not academics.
No, I would say one of their values, if I had to guess, would be independence and freedom. From the toddler program all the way through CASA, they really teach the children and show and model the teachers model what you need to do, and they show them how to put on your own jacket. Whereas you'll see some kids still have their parents putting on coats. Montessori will teach them how to take care of themselves, how to groom themselves, how to take care of their work, their materials, all of that. So all of that to me fosters independence versus let me teach you what to do. Let me lead you on how to be able to be independent. And then the freedom to choose from all the materials within the room, right? To what they want to do. So it's very self-led within, a stated boundary, but within there, there's a lot of freedom. What else? Freedom, respect, self-care. That's part of grooming. What else?
I think responsibility, like you said, I think that was huge. You're responsible for yourself and what you do. And
and I think self-growth or growth. And the way they encompass growth would be definitely the academics, building. Everything is very intentional, what they show the children. The materials, you can see the materials they have there are they're made just for these schools. They're very thought out. And that at any time a child has mastered a skill, then the growth becomes in how they interact with another student by teaching them that skill. And then growth also in terms of seeing them as a whole. So as I said, the senses, creativity, providing for others, very like a big sense of community would be the other one.
Community, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. They teach the kids a lot about other religions, cultures. If there's a student that's from another background, that parent is invited to bring something of their culture and talk about it. So the kids are exposed to this global idea of, we're all the same very much in being people, but we have little differences that we can celebrate. And so there's that too, that sense of community.
And if you can name one thing that Isabel liked the most about her experience there, what do you think that might be?
Oh my gosh, she loved it all. One thing.
I think to me, Mr. Facitelli.
Yeah, she loved Mr. Facitelli is the co-founder and built the school with another teacher. And he taught her the first few years, and then the school started to grow and be in such demand that he became principal and kind of took himself out of the teaching role. But I've never, there's something special when you come across someone who really has a passion for children, to really see them not as like little cavemen to be managed, but as people to nourish and help them blossom. He has so much patience. He says things to them. I'm taking notes even, he'll say something in a way that's such a kind way to say it to a child that really inspires them instead of crushing them, that all the kids really grow attached to him. And then he hires staff that has those similar qualities. So, usually it's leadership at the top, but he really creates something that reflects his values. And I think there even came a point where all of us from Etobicoke, the founding, his inaugural class, a lot of us were from Etobicoke, and he went as far as to help us not have that double commute every day, twice a day going to Mississauga and back. He actually bought a van and outfitted it with our car seats, and he lives in Etobicoke as well. He picked up all our children and drove him to work with them, brought them back. This happened, I think, in the second year.
Yeah.
Just so we could stay with them, all of us, the six families that were from Etobicoke, and not have that commute. He so cared about giving them that. And you know what, the cost of pitching in for that van, or the service of that van, of him driving them each day to school and back, plus the tuition, was still less than what we were paying here. So it wasn't just all about money for him. It was just so amazing.
Yeah. And even that experience she loved so much.
She
driving
loved that.
In the van to school and van back from school. And another great thing I thought they did too was introduce a school mascot in Kipper, and his dog that came to school with them, and the car ride. They loved to to interact with Kipper and take him for walks. Like they'd each get a turn to take him for a walk daily. And that was another nice thing, especially if you don't have dogs or pets at home. It's a nice experience for them to have as well.
They get to take turns walking the dog. So learning to take care and love animals and life itself. And this Mr. Facitelli, he also in the car, he would play them Vivaldi and sing opera and all these things. And they would come home and tell us, and we're just like, what a great commute you have. You're with 5 friends you've known since you're little, and Mr. Facitelli is giving them extra teaching, learning time. They loved it, you know. It was really him, because all of that La Villa Montessori School it's his team, but he's the heart of it. And he's really created around him an extension of what he sees and what he wants for children. And they've been exposed to so much more than I would have even thought they're capable of appreciating. So actually, us too, we really like Mr. Facitelli. Like, I think we became better parents. He showed us the way, just by his example. Yeah.
Well, that transitions directly into my next question, but I'm curious to know, as parents, what is something that you personally appreciate and like the most about your school experience, whether it's him or something else?
It was him. So what else?
For me, it was how independent that she became and confident in herself, in her own abilities. She had a sense of not fearing to approach new challenges and try new things. And I think that was great to see that came out of there for me as a parent, because I can see her now, you know, she's always willing to try something. She's never, no, I don't want to do that. Isabel truly wants to always at least try something once. And I think that's valuable in life. That's always a great life lesson, you never know until you try it once. And I think that kind of stemmed from the school as well.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big gift when a school like Mr. Facitelli, the school, when you're able to really teach children young what it is to how to approach challenges and how gratifying it could be to feel like it's difficult at first and you keep practicing it and you get it. They really take that time to show them how to solve their own problems to an extent, how to, if something breaks or they're allowed to handle glass, whereas a lot of kids can only have plastic. And if something breaks, they're allowed the chance to literally clean up and go pick up there's an adult there, but how to make up for their mistakes, how to learn from mistakes, and how to kind of, really find answers on your own, whether it's knowing to seek answers by asking a question and so forth. That confidence is built there. And so the beauty of it is even though she graduated from that school, she's now in public school, and it doesn't really matter who her teacher is, or if it's a teacher that's as attentive or as passionate. Isabel is able to create something challenging for herself. She's able to know how to ask and find answers, which is really remarkable when you're 7 to be able to do that versus waiting to be led. She starts to lead her own learning and her own development in that way.
Would you be able to share a memory where you were specifically proud of Isabel in the school, whether that was an assignment, a project, extracurricular activity, or some other highlight, just a fond memory that you had with her?
Many.
Yeah. Where to choose? I think my fond memory is when she graduated from CASA, when she had her graduation ceremony, and to be one of the, I think she was one of the first students to go from start to finish at that school, and graduate all the way through from the first YCC level all the way through to CASA, and her pride in that, and seeing that moment of that she accomplished it on her own, and just seeing that in her was, to me, a very fond memory of the experience.
Mm-hmm. For me, it was the camaraderie, the community. It was her last day, and they really hold these, because the school is smaller, they're able to hold these intimate celebrations together outside in their beautiful landscaped backyard. And that last day, Isabel went to each teacher. Each class has a French speaking assistant who's fluent in French and only speaks French. She gave each person a hug. A few teachers cried, and then she had friends who had one more year to go or whatever, and they would sit with her on like a tree stump and give her notes. And the way she received these little gifts and notes, she kind of sat there really poised, and I was like far away taking pictures, but she kind of sat there, looked, would take a note, read the card that these little kids wrote, or they dictated to their parents to write, either way. And she really was gracious in receiving it and appreciated, this card. It was just a really nice goodbye. And just the way she handled it. I knew she was a little sad to leave, but I was really proud of her.
And one more too was like something she accomplished at school learning was the moment she was able to link letters and words together in reading. That was a big moment for her.
Yeah.
And once she was able to do that, she was just off and running and kept reading and it just fostered this beginning of loving to read. And that was a big moment as well.
Yeah, to add on that was really cool because, we have a lot of friends who don't necessarily go to Montessori, but our kids are the same age. And, to see you kind of see what's happening at school because they bring home all this work, not homework. They don't even give homework because it's all done at school, but you could see her doing tracing sandpaper letters with her finger and then doing small activities like stencil work. And you're wondering, how is this going to help her read? Or, they don't even say letters. They just say sounds of the alphabet, just sounds. And then, you just trust in the process. These guys know what they're doing. And, one day it really felt like overnight, she just started reading. And I felt really proud of her, but I know it wasn't me. It was the school who kind of gave her these, it's such a cool way they did it. Their approach is different from what I've seen in public school. And she's reading before all the other kids that are her age that weren't going to Montessori. And so by the time she went to public school, she's already reading these chapter books, and while other kids are still learning to read. And I know those kids will catch up, but this means that in the time that other kids are learning, she's already reading, and then she can then move forward and gain all these other learnings and knowledge. Instead of learning to read at the age of 6, she's now learning about science and all these other things on her own. So it really opened the gateway for her to kind of move ahead on her own. So,
which I imagine is a very rewarding feeling as parents, to see not only her personal growth and development and ability to make friendships and be comfortable and come out of her comfort zone, but her academic achievements and success as well.
Absolutely. And with COVID, we all went online to learn, distance learning. And I really saw the foundation that she got from Montessori. It really kicked in during COVID because a lot of her classmates in public school were just oh, my kid isn't learning anything, because who has time to sit here and do the typing for them and do the writing to the teacher and submitting everything online. But Isabel got into a quick routine because she already had these skills of being responsible and wanting to figure out how to do everything. She learned to type during COVID. So she was responding to her own teacher on Google Classroom. We got into the habit, I would print out the schedule the teacher would give for the week. Isabel would get up, go through, because she could read well. She was able to read the schedule for the day, know when to click on a lesson, make check marks for every single task or subject that was covered that day. And she knew how to do all of that. So really, for me, us, distance learning was a breeze. It was how many months of learning on Google Classroom. I didn't need to sit with her all day. I was around, but I really do attribute it to Isabel, but it was Montessori that taught her those skills.
That's very impressive that she was able to learn it that quickly.
She would really open her binder and be like, okay, I see what I'm doing Tuesday. This one's a lesson online. I'm going to click on that. Oh, Miss, her name was Miss Tino. Miss Tino told me do this. She's like, I'm going to write a message back to her. So I didn't have to keep coming over and fixing the computer. She knew what to do perfectly.
Yeah,
she figured it all out. And then lessons were just, she had to learn lessons, but that was the easy part. The real skill was she learned how to be super independent. Her technology skills went up, and now she can type. And, you know, she was doing that instead of just learning to read, instead of struggling to understand what the instructions are. She was so independent.
I'm glad you had an easier transition, because I know a lot of parents have had difficulties during the pandemic with online learning, but sounds like it was easy for her. It was smooth.
I feel like Montessori, that foundation was like one of the best things we've ever done. We say it with our oldest daughter, who also went to Montessori and is now public. And I say it now with Izzy, like the investment for our time and what she learned and the skills that, you know, maybe we didn't even have growing up, has just catapulted her into this independence that's almost beyond what you think a 6 or 7 year old can do. And we keep seeing like return on investment. I keep seeing things in Isabel, and it's really great. Like I would never have changed that. That was like one of the best decisions we ever made. Yeah.
Would you be able to speak a little bit more about the sense of community? I'm curious to know about the relationship between parents. Would you say that the values and goals are aligned among the parents that have their children attend the school?
100%. Usually when a parent chooses a Montessori or any kind of Montessori, they'll go deep. They usually have similar values. They're looking for certain qualities, which means we share the same values. You want, you know, this type of school, like two things. They look for Montessori's and they make sure it's registered with AMI, because anyone can actually call themselves a Montessori unless they're registered with CCMA, like the Canadian Montessori Institute, and AMI certified. It's not truly a Montessori. So usually the people who pick this school, La Villa Montessori, have looked into those things, because you can really just choose any school that labels themselves Montessori. And then when they, you know, you could choose really, there's so many different private schools to choose from. And so usually the parents that choose this one are really, they may be working full time, but they're really invested in being a part of their kids' learning, because the community aspect is not just the teachers. Montessori is very much about, this is what we're doing in the classroom, but we need you to be consistent at home. So it's almost like the teachers are leading us as well at home. Like, we're going to teach Isabel how to potty train on her own, but at home you can't undo it by, you know, putting pull-ups on her. Or at school, we're going to teach her to put away her things and to do this and make time to get dressed properly and on time, but you need to do the same at home. So she sees so they really create a community in the school, but also with the parents. And then, you know, we in turn tell our grandparents and caregivers the same message. And then what I also like is Montessori will also have, I don't know if they're doing it now, maybe it's online, but these little learning education nights where you come to the school, maybe it's on Zoom now, and parents get together, get a chance to meet each other, and they will educate the parents on some of the concepts on why they're doing this approach with our children, and to show you, this is what your kids have been doing, and this is why we do it this way. And they'll show you how a child's mind develops, and how, you know, up to the age of 7, I think it's 7, is when, you know, they have the most synapses. It's the best time to give them a variety of things to learn and expose them to many things. Whereas, you know, some parents, or even us, I probably wouldn't have thought she'd be into, you know, smells and sewing and cooking and all of those things. But, you know, this is a time when they could pick up languages faster and all these things. So it just kind of reinforces why they're doing what they're doing. And yeah. So we all become a community because we all really invest into it and buy into it and understand. And then we see the results at home. And then the parents bond over kind of can you believe she was able to, you know, pour tea into a cup and mix it and light a candle? Like, you would think kids in fire, but she can light a candle and she knows how to safely put it out and safely do this. And, you know, in safe environments, it's just amazing what, you know, we did bond over that. I think parents bond over the shock of seeing their potential realized sooner than we would think it'd be.
Would you say that there's a lot of opportunities for parent involvement?
Yeah. There was, I mean, just like any other school, there's like a parent committee that might organize something outside of the school. There's that. And then this school is smaller. So when it first started, there was not that much. It was more, we come together on these nights, info nights and so forth, and hang out there. And then now there's you know, a parent committee, and then a committee that kind of communicates to the staff, like to Mr. Facitelli, the principal. But really, you don't really even need it because there's not that big separation between the school and the parents. Like we're very
it's very intimate.
We're very intimate. It's very close and open communication, which is again another valuable thing.
Well, I was going to ask about the relationship between parents and the staff and administration. So from your perspective, do you feel like they have an open door policy and they encourage communication?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, they have their sessions where your evaluation sessions of your child, which I thought makes it very transparent, is you come in and observe the child in the classroom as a parent, and then you discuss with the teacher where they're at, and the fact that you sit in the class and see what goes on during a class, to me is very open and transparent, and I appreciate seeing that very much.
It's so interesting. You go for an observation and it's not like you're sitting in a class where they're sitting at desks. Like we're made to move, and we know that now. Sitting is the new smoking. You go into a Montessori class and you sit there. They're aware you're there, but you don't really talk or interact. You're just observing. And the kids, it's, it was like 4, 5, 6-year-olds, or sometimes it was even younger than that. And it just blows your kind of perception of what you think you would see. You think you'd see crazy kids everywhere, like kindergarten class. It's not like that. It's very calm. There's like 10, 15 kids. They're all engaged in their own activity. The teacher's going around to make sure they're covering what they need to. They're teaching each other, or they're focusing. Maybe one kid will come up to me. Whoever's in charge of snack that day will offer me, a glass of water and like a snack, which is, a rice cake with some kind of seed butter on it. But you could, I could see them from the corner of my eye while I'm watching my own daughter, and they're pouring the water into the glass. If it spills, they're wiping it with, the designated cloth. They're making me a snack and bringing it to me. It's just like this little economy, this little town that's happening. Mm-hmm. Really cool to see. Wait, what was the question again? Actually, I want to say this too. Our older daughter went to another Montessori, which was also awesome. Like she did great, and in public school, she's still reaping the benefits of that. However, that school was more of a divide. The teachers were amazing. It was like, I think she had the Mary Poppins of teachers, but the administration, like the principal, vice principal, it was different. It was a lot more, you couldn't reach one. You had to go through a vice principal only and barely ever get the principal. It felt very like transactional. Every time they were nickeling, diming. Everything was like, pay for this, pay for this. It was just so disconnected, the amazing schooling versus how it was administered. And that's another reason why when we got to La Villa Montessori School, by accident, it was so refreshing because there was consistency between the teaching and kind of the attitudes and approach of the principal. It was one and the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what was the relationship like between students? Did you find that it was an inclusive and welcoming atmosphere, and it was an environment in which they encouraged and fostered long-lasting friendships?
Yes, I would say yes. Like, definitely. Because
especially the whole, you're with students within 3 years of your age. So it's very inclusive in terms of that. And you're always working to help someone or learning from someone. So that fosters inclusivity in its own, like, right away. So it's built into the schooling as it is.
It's funny when you think about public schools and you see, how they group the children. You were born in 2013, all of you stay together. Everyone in your age group is one grade. But at Montessori, it's like, well, in real life, we're constantly interacting with different generations, different ages, and being able, they foster that idea of life is not like just your age group. Life is learning from above and below, and teaching above and below, and really seeing people for not their age group or the year they're born in, but really seeing a person as a human being. And that's, they don't preach to the kids about that. It's just internalized because they're with kids of different ages all the time when they're at Montessori.
And they definitely developed relationships and would want to see each other after school and things like that.
Yeah, we meet up at the park,
yeah,
and stuff like that. I would say because we were commuting to the school, it probably won't be lifelong for ours, because she left in grade 1, and then, you know, she has friends here now that are closer. But during the school year, while she was there, we would always meet up. Like a lot of us from the classroom would meet at a park or whatever. So yeah, it would be the kids having friends, but also the parents, because we were so just like-minded and appreciative of just knowing you're part of something special, seeing something that really you would hope the public education system would have as well, because it's just such a great approach to children, seeing them and treating them as little humans, you know, not just little cavemen that need to be wielded, wrangled in. Yeah.
And you've described such wonderful aspects of the school that I want to play devil's advocate for a moment. But if you were to describe a weakness or even an opportunity for growth and development that you saw, what do you think that might be?
The only weakness in my mind is one, I wanted it to be here, like right in Etobicoke. 2 is I really wanted them, but they were new when we started. I really just wanted them to expand. So they went up from toddler or babies or whatever to CASA, which ends in grade 1. The only weakness is I would have liked to stay. So if they had their, what do you call it? They call it upper elementary and so forth. So they'll end up being grade 1, 2, 3 together, 4, 5, 6. If they had that, that's the only weakness. And I know when we left, they had plans to build it because they had enough interest and so forth to populate the higher grades. And that was the only weakness, because some Montessori's will go all the way up to, you know, to high school even. And so that's the only weakness, but the plans are in place to do that.
And I want to be respectful of your time. So before we wind down and ask you my last couple questions, is there anything that I haven't mentioned about La Villa that I haven't asked you about that you feel is important to mention?
I would just say, you know what, like if it's financially feasible to do it with your children, if you're on the fence, go for it. It is a no-brainer. Your return on investment, you'll see it in your child like almost immediately when they come home. And then you'll see it even after they leave Montessori, you'll see it later in life, how they're dealing with school or their teachers for hockey or skating. These qualities, this way of being and operating in the world, it's just, it's priceless, really. It's priceless. Like I remember thinking, oh, do I want to do private school? Like we don't have endless funds. So do I want to do private high school or private, you know, Montessori when they're young? And in the end, I'm so glad we did this, because if anyone is doing research on our minds, and I mentioned this before about neuroplasticity, and our minds just have so many synapses, and then if they're not used, we lose them. And so these younger years, all the way up to CASA, is when they have the most capacity to learn. And La Villa meets those needs. And then once they're not used, if you're sitting in front of an iPad all day, or if you're not engaged at school, just watching a teacher talk, that's when a lot of kids lose their interest in learning. They lose all that potential in their minds. Yeah, so I'd say so I'm happy that I invested in their foundations of beginning of learning, so they have that love of learning all the way through. And so I feel less pressed to even do private high school, just save the money for university, because, you know, everything they've learned now, they're going to use it for high school and for university and life.
So you would definitely recommend La Villa to another parent?
Hands down.
Most definitely.
Hands down. You know, we talk about it all the time. I think the biggest challenge is now to get in, because I think word of mouth has spread, and that's why they were going to build, you know, grade 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6. They wanted to expand because they had a lot of demand, and they deserve it. It is well deserved. Yeah, I don't sing praises of anything if I don't mean it. So, yeah.
And for my very last question to the two of you, if you were to pick up the phone and call your past selves before embarking on this entire experience with La Villa, what would you tell yourselves?
Don't think twice about it.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah, because as I said, we grappled over, like, do you want to save this money for high school or whatever? Is it worth it when they're so little to like pay for a private education? And for me, like, I said this, you know, I should have said it then. I said it now, and I would have said it then, is I'll pay for private education only if it's Montessori, only if it's La Villa Montessori. Otherwise, I'll just take my chances in public school. So I would say, like, you know, there's a private school right behind our house, and we didn't go there. We as I said, I commuted all the way to Mississauga just to keep her there. Yeah, so no doubt, it would just be go for it. It's the best investment.